Today is Earth Day, and President Biden is celebrating by hosting world leaders for a virtual summit dedicated to addressing climate change. At least 40 world leaders are in attendance for the two-day event. They include allies like Germany's Angela Merkel and Canada's Justin Trudeau, but also adversaries like China's Xi Jinping and Russia's Vladimir Putin. The focus of the summit is finding solutions to cut carbon emissions. Our CBS News polling finds Americans slightly approve of how President Biden is handling the climate crisis so far. 56% of Americans think the government and individuals should address changes to the environment right now. At the summit, the president laid out his plans for how America will tackle the crisis, saying the U.S. will commit to cutting its output of greenhouse gases in half by 2030. The president says there is no time for the world to wait.
The signs are unmistakable. The science is undeniable. But the cost of inaction keeps mounting. The United States isn't waiting. We are resolving to take action. The countries that take decisive action now to create the industries of the future will be the ones that reap the economic benefits of the clean energy boom that's coming.
Let's bring in CBS News Chief White House correspondent Nancy Cordes. Hi, Nancy. Good to see you. So how does the president plan for the U.S. to meet this climate change goal?
That is a great question, Tanya, and the answer is we don't know yet because the White House hasn't said how he's going to meet this very ambitious goal of cutting greenhouse emissions in half by 2030. They only recently released the goal, and they say they're still working through exactly how the U.S. plans to meet it. It'll certainly involve some combination of boosting energy efficiency in the automotive industry, incentivizing the production of clean energy like wind and solar. But, the question is, how are they going to break through some of the political obstacles that they have on this front? Because in order to create those incentives, big tax incentives that you would need to create and frankly, punishments for pollution that you need to create to reach that goal, you're going to need to have the help of Congress. And so far, Republicans have kind of rejected this goal as pie in the sky and have typically not supported measures to, go beyond the hand of the market when it comes to influencing the energy sector. So this remains a big open question.
So, yeah, that was my next question in terms of some of the climate change and green energy initiatives that are already in the president's $2 trillion infrastructure proposal, and which one of those, if any, Republicans have signaled they may be willing to back.
Right. So there actually is a long list of initiatives in the big infrastructure bill that would qualify as a greenhouse gas reduction type of proposals. For example, 500,000 EV charging stations by 2030, or a production tax credit for clean energy. There's even a proposal in there to electrify about 20% of the nation's school bus fleet so that school buses run more efficiently and pollute less. So they haven't really gotten into the nitty-gritty with Republicans. What we know more broadly when you talk to Republicans about the president's plan is that they think that things in there like, for example, this production tax, they say that's not true infrastructure, and they want a bill that is much smaller, that only includes those typical building blocks of an infrastructure plan, your sort of planes, trains, and automobiles, roads and bridges, maybe broadband, that kind of thing. But something like a production tax tax credit that would incentivize some industries and disincentivize others, that's the kind of thing that's going to be much more difficult to get Republican support for.
And so, Nancy, what are we hearing from other world leaders at this summit about their efforts to combat climate change and the lengths they are willing to go?
Well, it's interesting. First and foremost, you're hearing a lot of world leaders like Boris Johnson of the UK or Emmanuel Macron of France welcoming the United States back into the fold after 4 years during which the U.S. kind of gave the cold shoulder to a lot of these efforts to combat climate change. Most famously, the Trump administration withdrew from the Paris Climate Accords, and part of the rationale behind this summit is for President Biden to say in a very big public way, the U.S. is back. We are recommitting ourselves to what all of these nations committed to in Paris and are working now to carry out. And so what you've heard from a lot of these countries is welcome back, welcome into the fold, and hey, you've got to catch up, because some of these leaders say they're not only on track to meet the goals that they set out several years ago, but they're actually on track to exceed them through a variety of measures that might be more difficult to push through here in the U.S., like big fines for polluting and the rest. And so it is a signal to the United States that it's great to get back on the wagon here, but while you've been away, a lot of other countries have been making a lot of concrete progress.
We have some catching up to do, Nancy. All right, so before we go, though, I do want to ask about a potentially groundbreaking foreign policy shift for the White House. There are multiple reports President Biden will formally recognize Turkey's role in perpetuating the Armenian genocide. Explain to us why this would be significant.
Well, this would be significant because this is something that past presidents have declined to do, because it would create an uncomfortable diplomatic situation with Turkey. Clearly, the Biden administration doesn't feel that same level of discomfort. The relationship with Turkey is already pretty rocky. And so this is going to be the first time that a U.S. president has labeled it genocide. This is the 106th anniversary this year of the massacre of Armenians that began in the year 1915. Hundreds of thousands of people, perhaps over 1 million by some estimates, died. And the Biden administration is set to declare that Turkey played a major role. It's certainly going to anger Turkey, which is one reason that U.S. presidents in the past have avoided it.
Right. All right. Well, Nancy Cordes at the White House, thank you so much.
You're welcome.